Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode here at Catholic Table Talk Podcast. This is the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table. Thank you again for pulling up a chair, or if you're sitting in a chair while you're driving or wherever you're doing. Thank you for joining with me again for another great week that God has allowed us to be together. Really means a lot. If you're new to the show, please like, comment, subscribe to the show on all of the platforms. If you don't know which platform we are on, besides the one that you're listening to, please look down in the description box to see all of the links to all the different platforms that we are on, and try to follow each platform because we do try to do stuff different on each platform. So each platform is not really one of a kind, or we try not to make it like that. As well as a speaker or show request or donate towards the show ordering merchandise, please contact us at catholictt@gmail.com. It's our email. It's the fastest way to get a hold of us and we can see it. catholictt@gmail.com, the official email of Catholic Table Talk. Also, in the links below, I want to throw out, we did launch a kind of a web page. So the web page link is down below. Check that out to stay up to date on the show as well. And now we come to this week's topic, and I think it's very fitting for the season that we're in. Now, again, if you're listening to this more in the future, you might not be listening to it during Lent. But it's a great thing to talk about, I think, during Lent. And we have a very great guest coming on the show today. He's making his Catholic Table Talk debut. His name is Bill Snyder, and just a little view about him before we get started. He was raised in Philadelphia. He's a passionate Catholic with a lively faith. For over dozens of years, he has been an active member and leader of the Catholic Charismatic Revival, and holds a bachelor's degree in both theology and religious studies and TV and radio production from the University of Akron, Pennsylvania. So we always like guys coming on, and gals as well, who have a major in theology and religious studies. And he has a ministry called Patchwork Heart Ministry, patchworkheartministry.org, which we can talk a little bit more about as we move along here. But today's topic is we're going to talk about the new film just released. Is Who Do You Say I Am? And I watched it prepping for this week's show, and I got a whole page of notes. So I can't wait to talk with him. So let's welcome to the table, it's Bill Snyder. So Bill, thank you again for your ministry, for what you do at Serving God's Call, and thank you for taking the time of day from your ministry to come on the show.
Absolutely, William, and thank you so much for having me on the show. I am totally blessed to be with you today. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, like I said, I was glad to have meet new people and new ministry and get more new guests on the show. So it's my honor. So like I said, you sent me the link, and we can talk about that as we go forward. But about the film of Who You Say That I Am, which I think, I mean, it really speaks to the person, the individual, when Jesus says that, not just to his disciples, but he's calling all of us as well. So I just kind of want to talk about the film, first of all, like what led you to make the film? Because, I mean, you can say, I'm going to make a film, but it takes a lot of time and effort to make it.
Yeah. I've referred to it as a freak accident from the Holy Spirit is how this came to be. And I am good friends with my co-executive producer, Kent Kohalski of Fiat Ministry Network. And Kent and I were having a conversation with Brian Walsh, who is a Shroud of Turin expert. He is the executive director of the Shroud of Turin Center in Richmond, Virginia. And so Kent was working with him, and he was saying, I want to catalog some of my work. I want to, record it so we have it on video. I'm getting older, and it'd be really great if I had, some recordings of what was of my work over the last several decades of studying the Shroud of Turin. And so Kent and him were just doing a Zoom call, and they were getting on and recording these calls so that there would be a record of this. And Kent just happened to mention it to me off the air, and he said, "Hey, uh, I'm doing this," and I said, "Why don't we do a documentary? We've got all these fancy cameras and lights and everything. Why don't we see if we can do a documentary on this?" And so he reached back out to Brian and he said, "Would you be willing to do a documentary?" And that's literally how this came to be. So it was a freak accident of the Holy Spirit, but sometimes freak accidents are what we need in our lives to jumpstart faith. And so over the past 2 years now, we have been working with the, of course, Brian and his amazing research. Then we've also been working with another shroud expert by the name of Richard Bernacchi. And Richard is a wonderful, wonderful man who travels the country giving presentations. And then we the Shroud of Turin exhibit, the Man of the Shroud exhibit, based in Libertyville, Illinois. And we partnered with them very closely. They allowed us to film the exhibit. And then also we worked with attendees of that exhibit. So people would come in to view this replica shroud and also this beautiful, crucifix that is accurate based on the wounds that are found in the shroud. So it was really stunning and beautiful, and it was wonderful to film. But that's how it came to be. And all the pieces and all the parts of this, the stars kind of aligned, which, by the way, may be a teaser for our next documentary. But we're excited about this one and the Shroud of Turin. So just excited it's out there, and hoping people are encountering Christ. And you mentioned that question at the beginning, who do you say I am? Well, this is that personal question Jesus asks every disciple, and we've got to answer it, right? Like, we got to get this one right. So through the lens of the shroud and science, we hope to be able to pose that question so that you can answer it faithfully, whether you're a seeker or whether you're a lifelong Catholic.
Right. Oh, great stuff. And yeah, I mean, like, sometimes it's good that you see the Holy Spirit working through you. Because sometimes we don't see that. Sometimes we can afterwards. And yeah, I think that's a great story about how you can make the film. So I was going for a question 2. I was going to put this in with question 1. But then I had a little. My mom's like, you should probably put that in question 2. I'm like, okay. So talking about how you make the film, which me personally, Bill, I just kind of watched the film with an open mind. Just kind of watched it, took notes, and got as much out of it as I could. But what for viewers or listeners at home, what can they expect to take away from the film?
So I think that they're going to walk away with a deeper relationship with Jesus and a deeper understanding of what Jesus went through.
Gotcha.
The shroud and the study of it has been going on for over 50 years, right?
Right.
I mean, almost 50 years, 1978. So when you look at that and you see the amount of research and time that has been put into one single relic, for the sole purpose, by the way, it has its own field of science, like biology or psychology or whatever. It has its own ology, and it's called syndenology, right? And syndenology is the study of the Shroud of Turin. It is its own field of science. I mean, that's mind-blowing that we have an entire field of science dedicated to the study of the Shroud of Turin. It's because it's so complex, and it does not just consist of one type of science, whether that's chemistry or biology. It has so many different physics, even. There's so many different fields that play into this. And so because of that study and because of that research, we have a wealth of information about the man on the shroud and the scourge marks and the blood stains and what blood type the man on the shroud was, and the pollen that's found on the shroud, and all these different things. So when you begin to put all of that together, we hope that this film will say, man, this gives me a greater respect, a greater knowledge of, and a greater love for Christ and what he did for me on the cross, right? Like when you watch it, I mean, we had our debut here in the Milwaukee area. We had a film showing here in Milwaukee at Inspiration Studios on Ash Wednesday, and when they were talking about the crucifixion and everything, I've seen this film 130 times editing it, but others have, right? And so there were gasps, like when people were talking about the whipping. There were a few people going, "Wow, ouch," and there were others that were saying, crying in the back of the room. They said they were, shedding tears. So, I mean, we're hoping that this is an encounter with the man of the shroud, with Jesus Christ, and gives you a deeper respect for what Christ did for you on the cross. And so that's, what I hope people walk away with.
Gotcha. Well, just from watching it the other night and with my mom and everything, like you say, it has its own scientific, field. I mean, like both of us were like, that is really good. We're like, we're not too, we don't really know too much about scientific areas. So it's like, man, I want to know more about that, because I'm like, that's so like detailed and scientific, and we're like, we don't really know what they're talking about exactly. So like, we want to learn more about that. But just for me personally, just for all the viewers and listeners out there, um, just me personally, like you said, having a deeper love for what Christ did, and that, I mean, like, this is a great time because when Lent, Holy Week's coming up, the Passion is coming, and I mean, I'm not saying that I just push it off to the side, a ton, but I mean, I do know what Christ did to suffer for my sins and the sins of the world, but just remembering that, getting just remembering it, having someone else tell you about it, and just really going in detail about what the Passion was like. Really, it gave me a more of understanding of, okay, yeah, I mean, I got a little emotional writing notes about it. So definitely, I would have to agree with that. Yeah, you get more of a love and understanding of the Passion. So one now, when I was watching it, Bill. One of the main takeaways I have on my note sheet, and I included on the questions list. And I don't really want to give too much of it away. But and during the film, it was way back, and believe it was Jerusalem, where the shroud was hitting in the wall, and a lady appeared to, forgetting the name, but she told him where to find the shroud in the wall. And why I bring this up is because we just had an episode a little bit ago about Mary's appearances. So I don't want to give too much away, and please don't say as much, as much as you want. But do you believe that was Mary? Or did you talk about it during the film or anything?
So when we were talking about the filming of that, like when I was doing the interview with Richard about that portion of the film, I didn't probe any further on that.
Sure.
But I do believe that it can stand on its own, to
Okay.
allow, again, allowing people to reflect on that. And when you think about it, how many other appearances of other beautiful women do you know who have appeared, gloriously to tell the to,
Right.
to tell a bishop where to find a cloth of Jesus in the wall
Right.
and buried in a wall? I don't know any other, beautiful, heavenly looking women, other than our Blessed Virgin Mary. I have no idea of other saints appearing or anything like that. So, I know we've had great, miracles and things throughout the course of our history, but the Blessed Mother would be the person I would put in there. As a person, is there any way to verify this information? I mean, you're talking about the year, 400 or 500 AD, when this was. So, it was buried in the wall in the 922. I mean, you're talking about things where these seem a little bit like, hey, wait a minute, this is miraculous. It's beautiful. Is it the Blessed Virgin Mary? Do we have any way of verifying that? I don't know. But I would tell anybody listening, allow your imagination to and your faith to form you as you watch this. That's the one big thing about this film, is that it is not a History Channel piece, right? Like, this is not something that you're just going to see on the History Channel or Discovery Channel. And why? Because we're talking about things like that. We're talking about bishops burying shrouds in walls. You're not going to hear that on the Discovery Channel. We're talking about beautiful women that are more beautiful than any woman on appearing to bishops and saying, "Hey, go get this. It's going to repel an army. Like, if you get this, the Persians are going to be defeated in 522." So, there's just an amazing amount of respect that I have for the shroud and for its Catholic roots, right? In the early church and beyond the early church. And so that needs to be told. It doesn't need to be skipped over. It doesn't need to be, skipped over, but it needs to be told. And we need as Catholics to be able to allow our imagination to fill it. If you asked me personally, I certainly wouldn't speak for anybody else or any other experts on the matter.
Sure.
But if you asked me, I would say it's a Blessed Mother.
Yeah. Okay. No, Alex, I don't want to give too much away from the film. I want to get to my my notes before the show ends. But yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. But like I said, I don't really want to give too much of it away. So yeah, very cool though. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm just trying to make sure I got the right notes, so I don't want to give too much away from the film. But like you said, yeah, it's not going to be seen on Discovery Channel, History Channel, or real quick. I mean, if EWTN approached you and said we want to view it on our channel, I'm guessing you would have them view it or have them air it, or would that be a possibility, you think?
Sure. I mean, anybody that wants to, air the film, we are okay with that. We're any groups of people. I mean, I think that's another big piece of it is, we are
Sure.
trying to get on as many streaming platforms as possible. I just got word yesterday that you can eventually find it. It's going to take a couple of months probably, but it looks like Amazon Prime is going to pick up the film. And so there's other different streaming platforms out there as well. But yeah, I mean, if you're a TV station, if you're like Catholic TV or your EWTN or you're another media network that would like to air the documentary in its entirety, we're absolutely open to having a conversation with you. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. I just had that popped up. So yeah. And I mean, before like I said, I watched it with an open mind. I didn't really think of the shroud like that. I didn't really think much of the shroud, to be honest, before the film. And it was kind of like, okay, I mean, Jesus was buried in cloth, and I didn't really think of it like that. So that's for me. I really got a lot out of it. It was really mind opening, and also I would kind of say mind blowing. Just what we can see and what we can tell from it. I guess the biggest note that I took was I said, I don't want to give too much away, but the biggest note I took was um, Adolf Hitler even walked in the shroud. I thought that was, I'm a big history guy, Bill. So I thought that was, I thought it was kind of, should I say, not, I mean, cool in a bad way, but it's like, that's when you know that we can't be lying about the importance of the shroud or anything when someone like Hitler wanted it for himself. And then another thing was I think people should really listen to when they watch it is Psalm 22 and how like people before that is to the fifth gospel. So I guess I kind of want to talk about a little bit about Psalm 22. Just kind of like I mean, like I watch, listen to Bible in the Year, Catechism in the Year, right? And you hear everyone say, "Well, Psalm such and such is my favorite. Psalm such and such is my favorite." Um, so I just kind of like get your take on the Psalm 22 being like the fifth gospel.
Yeah, well, hey, I'll tell you what, anybody who can say that, my God, why have you forsaken me is your favorite psalm. I mean, God bless your spiritual journey.
Right.
But I will tell you that, I always find that particular aspect of the crucifixion something that is very, very, very important for us to, as Catholics, be able to articulate in society, is that what Jesus was doing was he was saying and referring to Psalm 22 when he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" If you continue to read that psalm, and I don't have it in front of me, but if you continue to read that psalm, you're going to see things like, all of my bones are exposed, and my mouth is dry, and all of these different things that are basically depicting exactly what is happening at the 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 crucifixion scene that is going on before them. And so Jesus is recalling to mind for all of those um you know bystanders or participants in this crucifixion, that this was predicted by David in the Psalms. And um the end of that psalm, though, is very, very powerful. It is incredibly powerful because it is hope filled. And again, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't read it to you. But I would encourage your listeners and viewers to go on and really look at that psalm and see all the hope that is at the end. This disgusting, you know, scene that is described is then turned into some type of hope, and it's unbelievable. Um, that transformation and how much it can tie into our experience of the resurrection, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. So I would just encourage everybody to really look at that Psalm 22. Really just look at it, and especially during the Lenten season, pray with it. And maybe it will become your favorite psalm. I think we all go through periods in our lives where we don't always have a, how do I want to say it, a real rock solid faith, and we sometimes can doubt, God, why have you forsaken me? And so just read that psalm and take it to heart this Lent. I would just encourage your audience to do that.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. Because I mean, you should be reading the Bible anyway. But yeah, reading Psalm 22 was like, because yeah, and like you said, you can pray with it, pray on it, as well. So, I know I want to get to the last remarks of the film, and then I want to get to talk about your ministry as well, Bill. I guess, like you said, you should look at the crucifix and the Passion with hope and Psalm 22, which I've heard Mike Deacon talk about a lot, a couple others, I've heard people talk about it. And some, you know, non-Catholics or even Catholics are like, you know, why why should we look with hope about it? I mean, and it's like, well, because we can have eternal life now that Jesus suffered and died for our sins. I guess one quick last question before we get to the your ministry. I guess, do you know of any other Christian, like Methodists, Lutherans, non-Catholic Protestants, I should say, that are like focusing in on the shroud, or is it just mostly Catholics who are really sharing the story, I should say?
You know, I will say that the shroud draws all kinds of people,
Right,
and it was evident in the film. At the end of our film, again, I mentioned we have some interviews with different people where they give testimony about their encounter with the shroud exhibit, and there were Protestant ministers, there were Catholic deacons, there were lay people, there were skeptics, there were seminarians. I mean, there's a wide gamut of people who were in that we interviewed. And so when you take a look at that, it draws in all kinds of people, I would say. So, um, you know, science has a way of doing that. I was saying one of the main reasons why I did this after I was sparked to do it, the reason why I followed through on it is because we've heard that phrase in our society since COVID, follow the science, right? Like,
right,
especially early on, we're going to follow the science. Well, we're going to follow the science. Well, what happens when we follow the science faithfully? What happens when we follow the science faithfully?
right.
We end up here. And so it draws in all kinds of people. It's not just for Catholics. It's not just for Christians. I mean, there's skeptics and agnostics and atheists that have all encountered this, and many of them walk away going, okay, this is authentic. This is Jesus Christ. And yeah, he did do what he said he did, or what he was going to do, right? Like he said he was going to rise from the dead, and he did. So um, I would just say it's for anybody. But we are faithful Catholics producing this. So we're coming at it from a faith angle, and we're not coming at it from a secular angle, from a questioning perspective whatsoever.
Awesome. Well, that's what we need more of today. It's Catholic Kingdom. So thank you again for doing the film, Bill. I mean, I said I was blown away by it, and I said I wish I could know a little bit more about the scientific stuff about it, but so that's what I have to look into. So with just a couple minutes that we have left, Bill, just any last remarks about the film? How can people get it so they can see it or have it shown in their parishes, and then just talk a little bit about your ministry, because it's it's a very I looked into the ministry, and I really thought it's a really great ministry that you have.
Well, William, man, thank you for that. And so as far as people getting the film, uh, it's very simple. Go over to our website, patchworkheart.org. You're going to see right on the homepage, we have a separate page, Shroud Film as well, but uh, you're going to see right on the homepage the ability to buy or rent the film. You can purchase it as a digital copy for $7.99. You can rent it as a digital copy for $3.99, and you get it for 3 days. So, I guess there's a little bit of a, I guess there's a little bit of a scriptural reference there to the 3 days, but you get it for 3 days. You can watch it as many times as you want there. In addition to that, I'm really encouraging groups, as you mentioned, to get it. If you're a pastor listening to this, if you're a business manager, or you're a pastoral associate, adult faith formation director at a parish, even youth minister for your older teens. If you are looking for something to show to your group during the Lenten or even seasons, right? I mean, the shroud is really relevant all year long. It's not
Oh
just
yeah,
during the Easter season, although I do like to say, this is prime time for the shroud. Um, Really, look at bringing it to your parish. And we have group licensing options, very affordable. If you want a single showing, it's only $250 to bring it to your parish and show it on a big screen. I'd be happy to jump in and do a Q&A with people afterward, whether it's virtual or in person. So I can always do that. I mean, with technology today, I'm happy to answer questions virtually in your parish if you're, far away or whatever, and I'm happy to do that. So I really encourage you, Knights of Columbus councils, if there's ladies guilds, whatever. I mean, we've really tried to make it affordable for everybody, because this is really about the message and getting Jesus out there, and get the conversation going. We have a companion guide too. I'll just mention that we have a companion guide to the film, so you really don't have to dream up questions. You can just use our companion guide to pull out the questions, and have a meaningful faith discussion after this. So think of it as a 2-hour event at your parish, film for 1 hour and a discussion after that for another hour. And if you wanted me to join in virtually, or Kent Kowalski to join in virtually, we'd be happy to do that and talk about what we're talking about here. And you can ask us more questions. So that's about the Shroud, my ministry, Patchwork Heart Ministry. We'll have to save that for another full-length conversation as well. But I'll just mention that I'm an open heart surgery survivor. I've survived 3 of them. I had a congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot, and that is the reason why my ministry is what it has its name, because I literally have patches in my heart holding it together, keeping it beating right this very minute. So that's how the ministry got its name. We would love to do an encounter at your parish other than just the film. We would be happy to do speaking engagements. We have a book out for college students called Hearts Burning Within Us, and we would love to just get to work with you. We do parish missions. Have a great Lenten mission called Running to the Heart of the Father. So you can check all that out on our website, patchworkheart.org. Just scroll past the Shroud if you're looking for that stuff, because the Shroud and the Shroud film are very prominent on our site right now.
Yeah, they sure are. I looked at them, like, yeah, they're everywhere. So, yeah, I'll have the links in the description box so the viewers can access them quickly. So yeah, but Bill, thank you very much again for what you do, and I think the time to come on the show today.
Oh, absolutely, William. I thank you for all that you do and for Catholic Table Talk. It's been a pleasure being on your show, and look forward to having more conversations with you, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, we'll have you back on for sure. So, all right, everyone, that is Bill Snyder. Please, like I said, look down the description box below to see his links and help out his ministry as well. That's it for this week. God bless you and your family, and God willing, we'll see you next week. Stay and say grace, go to sacraments, and get the most out of the rest of Lent as you can. If you listen to this outside of Lent, well, get as much as you can out of the day. We'll see you next week right here on Catholic Table Talk Podcast, the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table.